Alright, so I'm back over here. I'm going to show you a cool trick. We're going to move along a little bit faster now that you have the idea of doing the baseboards. We're not going to redo the work we've done so far for the baseboards. That would be a waste of time and energy. We're going to use a trick to do this the quick and easy way. So here's how we're going to do this. Okay, with this baseboard selected, and actually let me go to the object properties and change the name from object 01. I'm going to call this, let's call this first floor baseboards. Put an extra E back there. Just makes it easier to identify this stuff later. I'm going to go to edge mode and I'm going to turn ignore back facing off. I'm going to select all those edges right here. And it didn't select them because I still have the window crossing turned on, so I turned that off. There, select all these edges. Alright. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to connect, go to the options, and we're going to make two connections, so two segments. And where are they? There they are. A little bit hard to see. There's one right here on the right, and the other one's there on the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch these in so they're really close. Something like that. Hit OK. So if I look at this, I have these polygons right here, right? So it's a little section of baseboard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edge mode, select this edge here, grab that loop. I'm going to go to align, and I need to align these in the, not the y-axis, that would be the x-axis. Okay? I'm going to select the loop for these edges on the right side. I'm going to align those also on the x. So now they're totally flat there, and I have a perfect baseboard piece right there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to geometry and detach. Make sure I use detach as clone. Hit OK, and I just made myself a new object. Now the pivot point is in the wrong place at the moment, so what I'm going to do is go to the hierarchy tab. I'm going to go to affect pivot point only and hit center to object. Okay. Now if I move this object, you can see it's a whole different piece. Okay, it's its own piece. So like a Lego piece of baseboard that I've created. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as a masterpiece. That didn't come out right, masterpiece. As a piece that's going to be the master object that I'm going to use to make copies of to build the rest of my baseboards. Almost as if though you were a construction worker and you were cutting these with a wood saw and just cutting them to the right sizes and placing them where they have to go. Okay? Before I do that, however, I have to change the pivot point, and I'm going to place it on the back of the object there. So I'm going to go back to my hierarchy tab, go to pivot point. I'm going to grab that pivot point, turn on snaps. Make sure you're using vertex snapping. So if you don't, go to your grid and snap settings, make sure you have vertex mode turned on, and don't turn on any of the others, just vertex snapping. And once you snap it onto that back vertex, you're ready to go. Okay? I'll turn on angle snapping, and I'll turn this 90 degrees, like so, negative 90 degrees. And I'm going to copy this guy just by holding shift and moving him to make a clone. And I'm going to snap him to this wall, okay? And because of the location of the pivot point, it snaps perfectly to that wall. Alright? I'm going to turn snapping off. I'm going to move this like so. So my piece is bigger than this strip of wall right there. But that's actually what I want. That's a good thing, and you're going to see in a moment why. I'm going to make another clone of this guy, okay? And I'm going to rotate him about 90 degrees this way. And I'm going to snap him to the bottom vertex of the staircase right there. Now you can see it doesn't reach the other one. So what I'm going to do is go to vertex mode, select all those vertices on the edge, and just pull them. Make sure you have snapping turned off. Pull them like this so it intersects with this one. Okay? Doesn't really matter how much it intersects as long as it passes through. And there you go. Alright? Now check this out. This is going to be awesome. Let me show you this trick. Okay? I'm going to have either one of these selected. Doesn't really matter which one I have selected. Let me just grab them both for the moment. I'm going to isolate selection so it's easier to see this. Let me turn off the transform typing tool. I'm going to select the one on the right, and you could select the one on the left too. It doesn't really matter, okay? I'm going to go to the creation tab, and I'm going to switch from standard primitives to compound objects. Once I do that, I could create a multitude of compound objects. I'm interested in Pro Boolean, okay? I don't want to use the old Boolean. I want to use Pro Boolean. They work a lot better. Normally, I don't use Boolean when I model, simply because Booleans are always buggy in most 3D applications, including 3ds Max, but In 2010, let's go ahead and use the Pro Boolean, okay? It's not exactly the latest tool, but it is better than the old Booleans. And what we're going to do is, this object turns into a Pro Boolean object, okay? Down here we have different operations that we can choose. We can use a union, intersection, subtraction, merge, attach, insert, so on and so forth, okay? The default is subtraction. If we use subtraction and we hit the start picking button and we pick that object, this is what happens. That's not good. That's not what I want. It just ruined everything. So I'll hit Control Z to undo, okay? And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to choose intersection, all right? And make sure you hit the start picking button, make sure it's active, and pick this other object here, and voila. We have a perfect angle there for our baseboard. So I'll right click to end the picking session there. I'll exit isolation mode, and boom, there we go. A perfect baseboard piece that fits that like a Lego piece. It just fits it perfectly, okay? So what we're going to do is, let's go back to the master object here, make another duplicate, clone it again. I'm going to take this clone, I'm going to snap it to that bottom vertex right there so it's on the wall. And with angle snapping turned on, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees this way. And I'm going to pull it this way so it intersects with that one. Go to wireframe mode so I could see this. You can see it's intersecting with the wall right there. Perfect. We're going to need that. I'm going to make another clone. Still in wireframe mode. I'm going to snap it to that vertex on the wall right there. And then I'm going to just rotate this with angle snapping 90 degrees. There we go. Now if I go to wireframe mode, I could see I want it to intersect a little bit, so I'll pull it like that. Then I'll go to vertex mode, get these vertices here, pull these guys out to about here, go back to shaded mode, and I want to just stick it into the door frame. Doesn't matter, you don't have to be exact about this part, it's not important, just stick it into the door frame and you'll be good. Okay? Alright, perfect. So, now I have these pieces that intersect. So, let's take all of this stuff here, alright? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate selection. Alright? This piece and this piece are totally separate. So this piece is its own piece. Let me change the color just so it makes more sense. Okay? So I have this piece here. And I'm going to use the same technique to put these two together. So I'll pick the big piece. Doesn't really matter which one you pick. Go to the Creation tab. Make it a Pro Boolean. Still using intersection mode. I'll hit Start Picking. I'll pick this piece. Uh-oh, we ran into a problem. Let's hit undo and try that again. And it keeps doing the same thing. This is a problem with using the Pro Boolean tool. It's not that smart. It doesn't know that you're trying to intersect these two pieces the way that you would expect. We want these two to intersect and stay the way that we want them to. Instead, what it's doing is it's intersecting them perfectly, but it's doing them in the wrong way, as you can see. And that's a problem, okay? So you can go through a lot of parameters here, but you're not going to find any parameters that are going to fix that. So you end up with a problem. So you're probably thinking to yourself, oh man, so Pro Booleans only work sometimes. It's not going to work for me here. What do I do? I'm stuck. How do I fix this problem? Well, it's actually pretty easy to fix. There's a cool little trick here that we can use to get this to do what we want it to. What I'm going to do is, this object is now a Pro Boolean object. Okay, so I'll just convert it to an Editable Poly. I'm going to select all its polygons and I'm going to flip the normal so the polygons are facing the opposite way. Okay, I'm going to take this other object, take all its polygons and flip those normals as well. Now with both of the objects that I want to use booleans on having their polygons flip, I'll select either object. I'll start with the big one here. I'll go back to the Pro Boolean tool, make sure it's set to intersection. I'll hit Start Picking and I'll pick that object. And voila, it made the perfect cut that we needed it to. The only difference now is that the polygons are facing the wrong way, the normals. So we'll just convert it to an Editable Poly, select all the polygons, and flip the normals. And there you go. Voila, again. We have ourselves a perfect intersection, and we got the Pro Booleans to do what we wanted it to, even though it wasn't cooperating. We forced it to do the work that we wanted it to do. Okay? So now the rest is pretty easy. We'll take this object, which is already a pro boolean. We'll use intersection, hit the start picking, pick this one, and there we go. We didn't have to flip any normals here. We got lucky, and it did it the correct way. Let's exit isolation mode. There you go. Perfect baseboard piece that we were able to create. So the idea was to create the original baseboard however we wanted. We went with this style that I kind of just made up out of my imagination. All right, didn't really plan it out, just kind of went with what felt good. We ripped off a piece, and then we used that piece intelligently to build the rest of our baseboards here quickly and easily, okay, without really having to extrude anything. All right, so now it's just a matter of using the same technique for doing these back corners. Now that you saw how to do the technique, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video, and I'm going to finish up the rest of this, okay? And the video is going to speed up. It's going to go about 2 or 3 times faster than normal, simply because there's nothing more for me to say. You already saw the technique, so just go ahead and use the same technique to create the baseboards for the rest of the first floor. All right, so to not waste your time too much and to do this quickly, I'm just going to speed up the video from here on out. All right, so here we go. Editor, we ran into a problem here where the technique is no longer working, so I'm going to try to experiment, figure out how to fix this. Editor, be advised, I believe I've solved the problem. So I'm going to go ahead and fix it up now. Start again in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now I've run into a little bit of a bug or an issue. As you've been watching me here, every time I try to use booleans on these two last objects, which is the last part to fix, I run into a problem. It bugs out and it gives me an error, and flipping the normals, as you've watched me do a couple of times, isn't fixing the problem. So how can I get around this? Well, it's probably a little bit too complicated for it to do, because this right here is one really big piece, and this is another piece of its own kind of complex geometry. So it's causing a problem with the booleans. The pro boolean tool, even though it's good, it can't figure it out. It's too difficult for it to figure out on its own. So I'm going to give it a little bit of help. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this guy here, go to polygon mode. I want to select all these polygons, not all the polygons, but just the ones here from this piece, and rip those out into a separate object and see if it has an easier time using pro booleans with that instead of this big complicated piece over here. But as you can see, those polygons have a little bit of a problem right there. When I select them right here, it ends up selecting all of these over here. So to fix that very easily, what I'm going to do is go to the top view, zoom into that area, which is this corner here. Okay, as you can see, when I select polygons, it selects some polygons over here. To fix that's pretty easy. I'm going to use the quick slice tool. Okay, I'm going to turn on vertex snapping. I'm going to snap the first point of my quick slice tool up here, and the other one could be down here somewhere. It really doesn't matter where, as long as it snaps to one of those vertices. Okay, now when I go back to perspective view, you can see that the object is properly cut right there, which means that if I select these polygons, yes, there we go, it only selects the polygons I want it to. So I'll go to detach. And this time I won't detach as a clone, I'll just detach as a separate object, no element and no clone. Hit OK. So now this is a separate object. Alright? Now let me try to do this. I'm going to take this object here, and I'm going to go to Pro Boolean, intersection, start picking. I'll pick that little guy. Perfect. Fix my problem up right away. Okay? So, now that I did that, let me turn this into an editable poly. Alright. And now with that turned into an editable poly, this one over here is also an editable poly. If I wanted to, I could take this guy here. I could go to attach, and I could attach this one right there. And now they're one object. And if I really wanted to, I could take those vertices from where I attached them together, and I can weld them, because if I go to views and I turn on my X view and turn on open edges, I can see that I have one big open edge right there. It really doesn't matter if I keep those as open edges. It isn't going to make a difference. But if that really bothers me, I can select all those vertices right there. I could go to weld options. Obviously, this weld threshold is way too much. And I could use this tool here to weld this stuff together. I'm not going to bother doing that, however, because it's really a waste of my time. There's no point in doing that. It's perfectly fine the way that it is. As you can see here, pretty much looks like one connected object, and that is pretty good. I'm going to exit isolation mode and say that my baseboards are pretty much done. The only thing that's missing is over here. We're missing an end piece to this baseboard, and I believe the one on the other side over there. So to fix that, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to start off with this one over here. Let me go to isolate selection on this guy. Okay, so this is the area I'm going to work with right here. And the way I'm going to do this is pretty simple. I'm going to take that bottom edge right there, and I'm going to extrude it up like so. I'm going to go to target weld. I'm going to target weld that new edge with the one on the top, so it forms sort of solid geometry right there. Okay. Don't worry about this looking all weird right there. It's not important. What is important is selecting that border edge right there that we just created, and just going to cap in the quad menu, and there we go. We know we don't need this polygon, so we'll delete it since we don't need it anymore. When I exit isolation mode, there we go. We have a perfect polygon end piece right there for that baseboard. And the one on the other side, something really weird going on here. At some point in time I must have messed this up where I wasn't paying attention. That's okay, it's not a big deal. What I'm going to do is turn on my window crossing, select those polygons there on the edge, on the end there, delete them, okay? Then I'm going to select all of those vertices that are right there. I'm going to align that in the x-axis. So I'll go to align in the x, perfect. Pull them back like so, and I'm going to just make sure. Let me use the transform typing tool. I'm going to take the x coordinate there from that wall. Go back to these vertices. Paste that x coordinate there. Perfect. Okay. And the same deal for this one. Let's go to isolate selection. Zoom into this area. Take the bottom edge down there. Extrude it up. Use target weld to seal that area up. Switch to border mode. Select that border. Cap it. And there we go. Then take this polygon that we don't need anymore. Delete it. Exit isolation mode. And there we go. Perfect end piece for our baseboard. Let's have a look at the entire baseboard real quick just to scan it with our eyes. Make sure that everything's good. Everything does look good. And the baseboards for the first floor and the hallways are complete. I'll get rid of that piece right there since actually I am going to need it. I'm not going to get rid of it. That's a mistake. I'm going to use it for the second floor next. Okay, but I'm going to end this video here. It's gone long enough. There you go. There's a neat little trick there for doing the first floor baseboards and taking advantage of Pro Boolean, even though it's a little bit buggy, but you saw some tricks for getting around some of the bugs and limitations of that tool and getting it to work the way you want it to. So I'm going to end this video here, and in the next one we'll move on to the second floor.